Okay, people. So today I'm joined by Paul Schwartz, and we're here to talk about his new film, Stop Time. Paul, thank you so much for joining me today, man. I hope
Oh,
everything is good with you.
excellent. Thank you for having me.
No worries at all. No worries at all. This is an interesting film, man. It's an interesting film. And I do believe it came from a short film. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean the whole gestation process of this film was kind of complicated. What happened was my first feature film is a film called The Seasons for Love Stories, which I finished in the summer of 2022, and I was just in the process of getting it out to festivals, and it was beginning its festival run in like shortly after Christmas of 2022 into the new year. And then in February of 23, my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I had to drop everything and just become
Mm.
her carer for basically the next 9 months consecutively, because she had a very, first of all, let's fast forward to the end of that. She's completely fine now,
Okay, that's good.
100% fine. But it was 9 months of it was really quite grueling, because she actually had two completely different kinds of breast cancer at the same time, which means she had to do two different chemotherapies, one after the other.
Ooh.
And then she had to have surgery, and then she had to have radiation. So it was a very long process. And I just kind of dedicated myself to, being the person who was her cheerleader and taking care of her. And when
Mm.
she came out at the end of the process, oops, I was very depressed and
Yeah.
unable to work. And I was staring at the computer screen thinking I need to write something, and I couldn't do a thing. And about March, I think, of 2024, so it's almost a year, it is in fact a year later, Nelson, who plays the lead in Stop Time, called me up and said, whatever happened to that idea about a photographer? And I had indeed discussed an idea of a film about a photographer with him, although it was a completely different idea from the one that this film ended up being. And I
Right.
just thought, okay, this is the sort of the kick in the butt that I need. And I sat down and I wrote, and when I say this, and since you've seen the film, when I wrote Peter's portion of the film, meaning just the scenes about Peter up until the point where they meet in the gallery and then introduced Adriana. And I made that
Okay.
film, and that turned out to be about 44 minutes. And I did a cast screening of that version, fully edited and scored and everything. I did a
Mm.
cast screening of that. And at the sort of bar afterwards, Nelson's wife came up to me and said, I'm really interested to know what Adriana's story is, because she has that line when they're on the terrace together, where she says, you and I both have histories. Some of yours is sad, mine too. And she wanted to know, well, what does the mine too mean? So then I came to think, well, I could turn this into a feature film if I can figure out how to tell Adriana's side of the story leading up to the point where they meet. And I had to find something that could also happen within the same 24-hour period as the existing film, and then cut it together. So, and that's how it kind of came to be a feature film.
Okay. Okay. Huh. That's an interesting journey there.
Yeah, it is. It's not it's not a way I would recommend to make a movie, but it worked. So,
But I think that's the interesting thing, right? Because so many people come at this thing in so many different ways, right? Ideas blossom in so many different ways that it's so like, you know what I mean? The fact Nelson calls you up about a film about a photographer that wasn't Stop Time, but just that thing sparks, you know what I mean? That mechanism to have you go, photographer story. What could it be? And then
yeah,
you
and also
this new thing.
coming not out of a place of loss from my own point of view, but of an almost loss.
Mm,
I mean, when the big C word is pretty scary, and
yeah.
you know, and in just in the context, you know, my wife is a non-drinking, non-smoking vegetarian who's a professional ballet teacher and is sort of the fittest person I've ever met. And, you know, just like the shock of that coming down on her was, you know, and I think that was definitely part of coming up with the story that it turned out to be.
Yeah, and maybe I'm wrong, but I imagine that through that whole 9-month, you know, process, there was thinking of if it did go the other way.
Oh, of course.
You know what I'm saying? So even though you know, this story doesn't come from loss was a companion of yours for a long ass time. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, you can't not think about it.
So yeah, that's some heavy stuff, man. That's some heavy stuff. But it's like, it's the things that breed creation, which is so interesting. You know, like the fact you didn't initially have Adriana's story when you were writing Peter's, you know, the original film, as it were, and then Adriana comes in at the end. What had you thought about her journey to that point, you know, within that process?
She was a single, highly successful professional woman in the arts in New York, and I hadn't really thought too deeply about what her backstory was. I mean, it's kind of, when I wrote the line that kind of triggered it, that line of "we both have history, some of yours is sad, mine too," is like almost anybody can say that.
Yeah.
I mean, the truth is, but when you, of course, when you put something in a film, it becomes very particularized. So I hadn't actually considered what, and it was hard to come up with the thing that actually is her backstory in the film, to come up with something that was sad enough to impact her on that day, but not so sad that, for example, she wouldn't go out that night. It had to be something somehow from the past, but also in the present. And that was a difficult kind of thing to balance. You know, I tried all kinds of different things. Was it a marriage thing? Was it, you know, originally had she given up a child for adoption? And, you know, eventually it kind of, I circled around and came to the storyline that I did, where, again, it was something that had happened when she was very, very young. So it's a kind of seed of sadness in her, but from 40 or 50 years ago.
And it also makes sense how it hadn't trapped her because she was so young, right? And I think that is one of the really compelling things of this story, because Peter is anchored in time, as it were, and Adriana is pulled back to a point in time, it feels, you know what I mean? So we have these, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, like anchored is, you know, because obviously he's been living his life, but it's kind of like he's in quicksand, right? He's in slow motion. You know what I mean? Things aren't processing like they used to, as we get from that conversation with his daughter on the pier. But Adriana, you know, she's been living, she's successful, all of these things, but now she is brought back to this moment, this period that when you actually sit, you're like, oh, I remember that. But up to that point, it had just been pushed all the way down, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's something that's deep in her as a sense of loss, but that it has been pushed down so deep kind of into the part of her memory where it's new things when she gets the letter from the Polish consulate. That we should probably say for your audience that the story here is that as a little girl she had been adopted from Poland by an American couple, and she had an older brother who was not adopted. And what the Polish consulate, the first time we see her, she has in her hands a photograph of two little kids, one of whom is her and one of whom is the brother. And what they want to know is this you and is this your brother? And if so, we want to talk to you. And suddenly the memory of her, she was adopted when she was, 2.5, 3 years old. Suddenly the memory of all of this is resurging in her in a way that it hasn't, in her entire life. Because very often, especially when you're a child of that age, you forget. I mean, if you've been pulled into a different culture, a different country, a different language, you forget, and all of that material that all of that life that you had there, and suddenly it's like, she has fragments of memories of him that are very, very fractured, and that was finding that for me as a writer, finding that storyline that where it was, she's been living her life, everything is fine, and then suddenly just that morning this one thing comes up, and that's kind of the that's the trigger for the rest of her journey. And as I said, the entire thing takes place, it starts in 24 hours. It starts in the morning and it ends at the morning of the next day.
Yeah. And it is a genius plot point. It's something that I don't know. I can't remember coming across before. Right. And it's something that is extremely believable, because I think if she was, adopted at 10, you'd be like, wait, how the fuck are you forgetting your brother? Like,
right.
What? It don't make any sense, or there's so many other things where you just be like, I don't know if I can buy that. But even talking to the consulate, be like, yeah, no, I was adopted. It's like 3 or 4. And then the consulate's like, oh, you were 2 and 9 months. And it's just like, what I mean? Because it was so long ago.
Right.
Even she can't quite get the timeline right. And then you think to yourself, even more so, yeah, what am I remembering from 2?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's just sort of like dream images.
Yeah, it's kind of like you kind of see echoes at times from those periods, and if you then maybe are in a certain place with a certain thing, like you get residuals, like things can come back, but it is hard to kind of go, ooh, that's 1.5. What was I wearing?
Yeah,
you know
right.
what I mean?
It's also the fracture that there's such a kind of dividing line between before Poland and after that moment, that it's like it's a hard line, and that was kind of the dream world and this is reality.
Yeah. And then when you learn more about that, right, it's an orphanage, so it's not necessarily like, not saying they're beaten every night and they're going hungry, but it's probably not the best. You know what I mean? So it's just like, again, going from that to then coming to America and possibly, and just having, even if coming to America, it's not like, a billionaire family, it's still going to be more than what she probably had there. So again, it just makes so much sense that those memories have been pushed down, and you know what I mean? Now you're living this new life, new experiences, just learning new language, new foods, new smells, just new everything, right? It's a factory reset, as it were.
Totally. And so it's what she's struggling with over the course of that day is a kind of she has deeply repressed the memory of her brother because it's such a sad thing that he didn't come. So all of a sudden, this thing that is this emotion about him that is buried in her suddenly reemerges, and that is the that is the crux of her sadness in this situation. And like I said, from a writing point of view, it had to be something that, I don't want to give everything away in talking here, but it had to be something where if it didn't work out the way she thought it was going to, it wouldn't be the end of the world.
Yes. Yeah.
And so it was finding that balance was the trick. And it actually, I mean, the Adriana portion of the film, it's like there's the meeting at the gallery and everything that comes before. So when I'm talking about the Adriana portion, I'm talking about before they meet at the gallery. It's 4 scenes. It's the scene with her daughter, the scene with Carla, her friend, the scene at the consulate, and the scene with her mother, the grandma scene.
Yeah.
And it took me a very long time to write those scenes. I mean, almost it's maybe, I don't know, 40 pages of script, but it took me like 6 months to figure out what those scenes were going to be. And in fact, I knew that I wanted to structure it that way. I knew that those scenes were going to be the 4 scenes that I needed. I mean, that once I had the idea, and I pretty much knew what the content of the first 3 scenes. So that would be the scene with her daughter at breakfast, the scene with Carla in the theater, and the scene at the consulate. I had absolutely no idea what was going to happen in the grandma scene. None. I mean, literally, I was just completely blank on it. And what happened was I knew that I needed some of that quote unquote archival footage of the kids in when they were in Poland. And I cast the 2 kids, and they're actually the children of some friends of mine. And arranged to meet them on a snowy day in a park near my house. And I had told the mother, can you dress them in clothes that look like it's Poland in like 1970? And she's a very kind of chic, fashionable woman herself who took that as a challenge. And when we got there, and little Evelyn, who plays young Adriana, who was in fact 2 years and 9 months old when we shot it. Well, that's where that number came from.
Okay, right.
The coat that she is wearing is a coat that the grandmother had made for her mother when her mother was a 2.5-year-old. So the coat itself was about 30 or 40 years old.
Oh.
And it was a handmade overcoat, and it was in fact too big for Evelyn. It was noticeably too big on her. And once I had that image, I went, okay, now I know what to do with the grandma scene. I know how to start it. And it was just complete accident that the costume that she chose was this wonderful coat that sort of, that little Evelyn is swimming in because it's too big for her. So that's how that, everything is a little bit kind of, found at times with this.
I think that's how these things work a lot of the time. I think sometimes people are trapped in the notion that everything has to be all lined up perfectly. You know what I mean? And it's just like, look, you can have the essence of a story in place, but maybe there's certain bits where you're just not like, I know what I want to do, but I'm not sure how we get there.
Yeah, finding the particularities. It helps if you have something specific that you can use, and like the coat in that case turned out to be the specific thing in that scene. I mean, in general, kind of writing the Peter side of the story, I am a sort of avid photographer myself, particularly black and white photography. So all of the images that appear in his, on the wall of his studio, that appear in the gallery show, those are all photos of mine that I've taken over the years that I printed for this film. But I knew, it's like, so, okay, if I write about him, I can use all of these wintry photographs that are kind of, sort of dreamy and bleak and empty. And then I can derive some part of, that goes along with the story of him being unhappy at this, he's taking all of these bleak photographs of wintry landscapes. So, again, it's like you find these things and then you can use them to build your film.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's the smallest thing can spark a whole idea, right? Just seeing the coat and then you've got, right? It's just that little thing sometimes that you need to ignite the fire.
Totally. So that's the perfect example, is the coat.
No, but I mean, Paul, like, what can't you do? Right? You take photos, you make films, you write films, you're a composer, you do plays. Jesus
well,
Christ.
Okay, so let's back. My background is complex. I sort of come from a showbiz family. My father was a guy named Arthur Schwartz, who was a Broadway and Hollywood composer and producer. If you know the classic MGM musical, The Bandwagon, with Fred Astaire and Sid Charisse, from which the song, for example, That's Entertainment, comes from that. My father wrote all those songs. And so he was, and I kind of grew up in that world. However, my parents wanted me to be a classical musician. So I was trained that way, and I'm a graduate of the Royal College of Music. I also trained in Italy at a place called the Accademia Musicale Gideon in Siena, which is a summer school for classical musicians. And I had a career for about 35 years as a composer, conductor, and record producer. Where I was, I've written ballets for New York City Ballet. I wrote a very short piece for the Royal Ballet in the late 70s. I've written 3 other ballet scores, 2 operas. I've scored other people's movies. And I in the mid 90s, I started producing concept albums, which actually brought me back to the UK. I've been living in New York since 1980. But I was here in the 70s. I went to school and university in Britain, and then I moved back to the States in 1980, and I started coming back here when I was producing records, because I would do all the pre-production in New York and then finish them at Abbey Road, so I kind of got my connection back, and I made like 11 records that way. And then I was the musical director of Phantom of the Opera on Broadway. So I've had that whole musical thing. And then around, I was going to say about 15 years ago, I kind of got tired of that. I also felt that I was starting to repeat myself a little bit. And I had always wanted to be, I was always interested in writing scripts, and I had never, and there was a guy when I was in school, actually like a 14-year-old here. There was one English teacher who gave us an assignment to write a 1-act play. And he was like the toughest teacher in the entire school in terms of his grading. And he made a point of telling me after I put my thing in, he said, you have a real gift for writing dialogue. And that stuck with me, because this was not a guy who gave compliments easily. Yeah. And when you're 14 and there's like the teacher you really admire and they say something like that, it can have a real impact. I kind of came back to that and started writing plays with, a little bit of success here and there. And then I thought, well, if you're writing plays, you might as well, because it's, as everyone knows, it's very difficult to get plays actually staged. But well, you might as well make a short film, and then you can have a calling card. So I made a short, and then I got the bug, and then I started okay, this is really because it fits my skill set. I can write, but from being a record producer, actually producing records is really good training for making movies because the skill set is very similar. You're making things that are you're making them not necessarily in the correct order, and you're piecing them together after the fact to make something that is, the sum is greater than its parts, and it's linear editing is the same. And I thought, yeah, okay, I can do this. And so it kind of grew naturally out of everything that I had done before.
Right. I mean, essentially, you've always been a storyteller, right?
Yes.
There's composing, that's telling a story, right? So you've
I think that's, you've kind of hit the nail on the head, is that what I came to discover was I am more interested in storytelling than I am in abstract music just for the sake of music's sake. I'm more interested in the drama. And when music is just music, it interests me less.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think that's what brought you to concept albums?
Yes, absolutely. Totally. I mean, that I had less success just kind of doing standalone songs because they didn't mean anything to me.
Yeah.
I mean, but when it sort of had a theme, then I could hang my hat on, I felt, okay, I can do this.
Interesting. Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
I had a fun. I'll tell you. I did I had a fun experience. There was a label in America that asked me to do a sort of classical music record. What they said was they wanted classical arrangements of Beatles songs, and I thought that sounds really yuck. But if I can figure out a way to do it, and so what I came up with was that in the 18th century, before they had symphonies and they had that kind of form, the equivalent form was called the dance suite. It wasn't used for dances, but there were different dances like the minuet, like the gavotte, like the allemande, and they would write pieces of music that were in the form of that dance, or it wouldn't be a waltz, but like a waltz.
Yeah.
And then they would string those as a group of pieces, and it would be called a dance suite. And I thought, well, what if I wrote an 18th century dance suite, not sounding like 18th century music, but using those dance forms, and turned it into, and used the Beatles songs to fill those slots. So there's an allemande, which is Blackbird, and there's a gigue, which is Revolution, and there's, and it's 11 pieces. And we recorded it in Studio 2, which is where the Beatles recorded, in their actual room. And while I was there, this was the very late 90s. It was while they were putting together that thing that I think was called the Beatles Chronicles, where they re-released all of the albums and kind of redid them. So they were actually in the building. And I remember walking into the canteen at Abbey Road, and in the corner with cups of tea were Paul and Ringo and George Martin kind of chatting to each other. It was like, oh my God, they never left. It's very strange.
Oh man, that must have been surreal. What
it was a bit surreal.
How did that go down? Because I've never heard of this.
It didn't do very. It's like, I think my initial reaction of yuck to the idea was, it's just not a commercial idea. It's a beautiful record. If anybody wants to find it on Spotify, it's under my name, Paul Schwartz, and the record is called Revolution. And it's there. All the songs are there.
Oh, I'm gonna.
It's all chamber. It's all chamber music. It's all like augmented string quartets.
Oh no, that sounds very compelling. I want to.
Mm.
There's, you know, I think you sometimes get right. Like, gosh, I think who was it? Oh, I think Corinne Bailey Ray did a cover of. Oh my days, my mind's completely blank. But she covered a, I think it was a rock song, but she slowed it down and made it all jazzy, and it was so frigging good. And then you got a load of other people doing a similar thing, and I think was it the I think the Live Lounge, BBC Live Lounge, something like that, and they do this thing, and so then they got a load of people to do it, and it became a bit same old, same old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like, oh, let's just take a faster song and slow it down, and it's just like, that's but completely reimagining it. That's where it becomes compelling, right? That's when you take something. Because it's, I think when you get covers, people covering songs and stuff like that, it can be really interesting when you completely change it up, right? Doing a straight cover, it can be fine if the original song wasn't a huge hit, right? Like if no one really knew the original, and so then it's fine. But otherwise, it's just a bit like, eh. So when you completely change it up, that's when it really, you know what I mean? I think sparks that interest. So this,
yeah, I agree. And I mean, it's also that's kind of what jazz. I mean, jazz is when it started, all of the, or not all, a large portion of the repertoire were songs that were from Broadway shows and from movies. And they would then take those and just use them as kind of a scaffolding to build the jazz material upon. I mean, I Got Rhythm has been, the Gershwin song, I Got Rhythm, has been turned into so many other things. So much that, you know, it's hard to find like a straight version of I Got Rhythm.
Yeah, I think music is so compelling when people do interesting things with it. It's just like when you listen to certain producers, like Young Guru comes to mind, and you're taking, like, I remember he sampled, I think it was Young Guru, he sampled like Hammers Can't Touch This. But all he took was the just took that from the beginning. And if you know the song, like you'd be like, yo, was that happening?
Yeah.
But the way then he then sampled it for Jay was just, it was great. And I love that, right? Like, but you get some people that lift a whole portion.
Well, I made a whole series of records that were called Aria. There are 3 of them, 3 Aria albums. And what they were was, again, it's something that sounds kind of yucky when you hear it described, which is opera, but reimagined with you know, modern rhythms and modern instruments. And what I would not do was, I know there's a very famous thing which I think the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra did, where they just did the Beethoven Symphony No. 5 absolutely straight with a backbeat. So it's da 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 do da da do da 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 da, and it's terrible. It's awful. This was I had to find a way of completely reimagining it in a way that was contemporary, but was also true to the original, so that it wasn't a mockery of what the original piece of material was. It was a rethinking of it. And it's those records are very kind of trancey and Massive Attack-y and that kind of sound world. And they're it's like it's a way of taking something that's a piece of host material, but reimagining it as something completely different. And again, if anybody's interested, those records are also all on Spotify.
God damn it, Paul. I'm going to be spending so many hours on your Spotify now, just going through shit. Awesome. Well, I know what I can listen to while putting together the webpage for this episode.
There
So
you
that's
go.
Oh man, no. So that whole thing of reimagining music, putting things together, how, like, did you think that plays into your filmmaking? And especially when you're thinking about stop time, because it's kind of reimagining that grief journey in a way, right? We have these two people coming at grief and loss in these two different ways,
Right.
which makes it so compelling. But as you said, you have Peter anchored in this period of time and he can't get past it. He doesn't want to get past it.
No.
Right. And we have Adriana who has gone past it. And now she's pulled back to it. And it's just like her processing this thing, you know, and it's like when she puts the record on, like it's just the way she's then ingesting this and, you know, gaining from this loss, as it were. So
yeah, I mean, it's. I think the sort of the concept of stopping time, which came, the title came out of the dialogue, which is where Peter actually is knowing though that he can't, wants to stop time at the moment before he lost his wife. And I think it's also it's something that the character of his psychologist says to him, which is, you know, it's an interesting choice of words because stopping time is kind of what photographers do. You know, you freeze a moment and you're stopping that moment of time. So that is kind of part of his whole persona, is stopping time. And in Adriana's case, it's like the time that period of time when she was in Poland stopped and is frozen inside her as well. So that's sort of the metaphor. That's where that metaphor came from.
Yeah, like Peter's whole thing is interesting because I don't know. For me, like when you think of photography, it is, I think it's preserving memories, right? It's creating echoes to the past.
Right.
And I think he has become, instead of preserving, he's found himself kind of squeezing, you know, imprisoning a memory to a point he can't go forward.
Right. And he's trapped. He's trapped, but he's trapped himself deliberately. He doesn't want to go forward. And yeah, that's the point, and that's what he has to be shaken out of, and that's what everyone around him is trying to shake him out of. You know, particularly his friends Mason and Carla, Mason is the owner of the gallery where his show is, and Carla's his wife. And Carla is sort of the catalyst because she's best friends with Adriana, and she introduces the two of them. Yeah, when you stop time, it's a trap. And also, you know, because he is specifically in the story, he is specifically a dance photographer primarily. That his daughter says to him at one point, what you do is you capture bodies in motion, and it's that freezing of, being stopped is the opposite of dancing. And that's what he does, is to freeze those moments in time.
Yes. Though I think it's always interesting when you look at that kind of imagery, because there's some people that, although it's a static shot, it still has the residuals of motion within.
Yeah, you get a sense of motion. Absolutely.
Which
and there is
not
a little
everyone
bit
can do.
there is a little bit of his dance photography, because I've done some dance photography myself. So there are a couple of images that appear, and you get a sense of that. There's the one main image of the boy in midair, which you see a couple of times. And yeah, you definitely get a sense of flying from an image like that.
Yeah, like with your photography background, what was the thing that you found yourself resonating to the most
in terms of
the type of photos that
for this, well, first of all, the film's in black and white. And it's in black and white with some color, and the way that the color is used is integral to it's not superficial. It's integral to the way the story is told. It's used in very select places to make a point. But the photographs that I chose to be part of his exhibit are almost all winter scenes with no people in them. They're just very, very, and very, very high contrast, very black and white. And that's kind of the mood that he's in. That's what that's what he's feeling. In terms of the photographic style of the film itself, it's very posed, in a sense that it's photographed. I photographed the film the way a photographer would frame a photograph. So there's very little camera movement. Almost everything is filmed with a still camera. There are a couple of places, like at party scenes, where the camera moves around because you're trying to see kind of what's going on in the room. But if there's a scene between two people, the camera is fixed, and it's because that's what a photographer would do. And I kind of feel like even in the Adriana scenes, the cinematography style of this film is the way Peter would shoot it as a still photographer.
Like, when you kind of, you wrote the script and everything like that, was that always the thought, or did that come a bit later on?
You mean how to shoot it? I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that I knew that I wanted it to be very. There's a lot of it is in close up, and I wanted to frame people in this sort of generalized soft light, with great fall off, and have it be still and not I kind of, in general, I don't like handheld. The whole thing of shaky cam. I understand how it can be used as a storytelling thing, but I find anything that any kind of cinematography where I am aware of the camera as an audience member, I don't like. I don't like flares. I don't like sort of really obvious handheld. I don't like crazy. I mean, if it's fine if you're doing a James Bond movie and the motorcycle is going over the bump and the camera goes around and that's. But if you're doing something about real people, I think keeping the camera as anonymous as possible and as beautiful as possible. I mean, I really lit things. I mean, one of the things, I'll just give you an example. When he's at the gallery with Adriana and she's sort of critiquing his work, and she asks about these 9 images which are starkly black and white. There's no gray in them at all.
Yeah.
She asks him, she sort of suggests, he says, well, that's how I was feeling at the time. And she says, trapped between the darkness and the light. And in an earlier scene, when he's in the scene with the ballet dancer that he's photographing, and then they kind of take a break and he's sat down, go back and take a look at it, and you will notice that in all of the shots when she's talking, she's sitting on a sofa and she's sitting to one side, all of the shots of him, he's in the middle of the frame, and there is a line on the wall behind him, one side of which is white and the other side of which is black. So he is trapped between the darkness and the light in that shot. That was very deliberate. And I kind of, there's a lot of that kind of thinking behind the way it was shot.
Yes, I think I did really enjoy the fact that you had this black and white film with this sparse use of color, and then at the end, because it's funny because I had this idea for this story, and it's a similar thing with the use of color and what the color signifies. And so, watching this and the way you did it, I was like, oh yeah, that I really like that, because it's really, the colors kind of enhancing the mood, right? It's telling us, how he's kind of feeling.
Right. Exactly.
I think, I think that was, yeah.
And the thing, the other thing about that, I love black and white. Some of my favorite films are not just classics like Casablanca or whatever, but there's a Polish film called Ida from about 10 years ago that's in black and white that is just exquisitely, incredibly beautiful. And it's the same, he's a Polish guy. I don't remember his name. It's the same guy who did Hamnet just now.
Okay.
And he's really good. And the thing about black and white is it makes everything a little bit special. You always want when you're making a movie, you want the images to be special in some way. And black and white, because it's black, because it's not color, it's already a little bit special. And what I find too often with color films these days is that in making the color, if you don't do something to make the color special, it just looks ordinary. And often when people do stuff to make the color special, it looks artificial. And that to me is a problem, because I don't want to be looking at, why is that character all red all of a sudden, or why is the sky orange, or whereas with black and white, it's just different enough that you feel you've been removed into a different world, which is what you want.
Yeah. Was it Lucas Zal?
I believe that is correct. Yeah. And for everybody who's listening, that movie Ida, if you haven't seen it, is incredibly beautiful. IDA, Ida.
Okay. It says, I don't watch a lot of foreign films because I can't see the subtitles, which is a pain. But like when I can kind of muddle through, there's so many great films that and I think an interesting thing with, like a foreign film is these different nuances in storytelling. Like when you watch a film from India, a film from Poland, a film from Nigeria, like everything's got this different tone, a different vibe, a different way in which it embraces the story. And that's so interesting.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the way Japanese films, particularly older ones, are sort of choreographic is interesting to me. And it's actually it's quite funny. Alan Douches is the name of my audio post-production engineer, who I've been working with for years. And I called him up before we started making this one. And I said, we're doing this and we're doing that, and it's in black and white. And I again ran it down to him, and he said, "Oh, you're making a European movie." So,
oh dear.
Which is kind of a place of comfort for me. I mean, I'm comfortable making a European movie.
And it's just different it's interesting getting a different type of story, which is always great. And with this, like, is it 75 minutes, right? It's not
78 actually altogether.
Yeah, it's not long. Like, was that always the ambition, right? So it's not like, a 2 hour.
I kind of tend to like the 90-minute mark as a sort of that area. I think is a good area for a feature film. Longer. I mean, I got nothing against 2 hours. I kind of 2.5 hours is getting long. But it just seems. I mean, my other feature is, I think, 85 minutes. I think it's a good length. And then also remember, with the kind of background story of this one, that it came about because it was cobbled together from a shorter film. So there was only so much that I could add, and it just turned out to be that way. There were certain locations where I could add a scene, and not more than those locations.
But I think it's good, for the aspect of, there's sometimes you'll watch something and it's just like, it's interesting, but it's a little flabby in the middle or towards the end, and it kind of went on a little bit long.
I'd rather be too short than too long. And in fact, I mean, there's a famous thing that Tom Stoppard said, which is that there is nothing that is good that cannot be made better by being made shorter. And I think I've taken that very much to heart. I think being as concise as you can. I mean, not to the point of rushing through things, but short is better than long. Short is better than dragging things out.
Definitely, because I think it has you kind of wanting more, right? Like, once it's over. So it's kind of like, and you'll be talking about a film, be like, I wonder where this, they went from here or this, and boom, boom, boom. Then you're just like, oh, I want to see what this person does next.
Good.
Exactly. That's the thing. If you made a 3-hour film and it's just like, I mean, it was good, but geez, right? You'd just be like, maybe I'll skip the next one.
Yeah, there are a lot of movies, some of which have won Oscars, where I think that could easily have been 20 minutes shorter.
Yes. Oh, for sure. For sure, that is the case with a lot of different things,
Yeah, I'm not. I like I said, I think 90 minutes, that area, I think that's a really good spot.
Yeah, I think cinema chains would definitely agree.
Yeah, they could
with
run it
that,
more times.
They want to get as many screenings as they want, so
Right.
So if you go more 90-minute films, they'll be extremely happy.
Yeah. Well, that's not the reason in my head, but no, I mean, no, seriously. I mean, it's like if you go to the theater, a 2-act show is going to be an hour and 20 minutes or so, intermission, and maybe 40 more minutes.
Yeah.
For the second act. An hour and 20 minutes, an hour and a half is long enough to sit still in one place, and then you need a break.
Yes. Unless it is so compelling that you're just like, wait, what's happening next? What are they doing?
But even in the, even the old really, really long movies, I mean, like Dr. Zhivago and like Gone with the Wind, they had intervals in the movie theater.
Yeah.
So, you'd get up and go to the loo and get a Coca-Cola or whatever. They knew that if it's going to be 3 hours long, it's going to be in 2 pieces.
What was the film that did throw in a break? There was something
recently.
Yeah. I can't remember. If it was
Oppenheimer was long, but it didn't have a break.
No. Did oh God, who was it now? It was that film that was it took forever to make, and then it finally came out, and it was a bit of a, oh God, what was the film? Adam Driver was in it.
Oh, Megalopolis?
That's it. Did that have a break in it?
God, I couldn't watch Megalopolis. It was just, I went with my son. We went to the cinema, and he's kind of a cinephile. He's a real movies guy. And I was prepared to brave it out. But after about 10 or 15 minutes, he turned to me and very, very firmly said, "Dad, we have to leave now." So I've only seen 10 minutes of it, but my God, did it not make sense.
Yeah. It was all over the place. Yeah. And I think when you hear all the craziness with the production, you're kind of like, I'm not surprised. Yeah. This feels so disjointed.
Well, no, it was, nobody could say no to him. So he did whatever he wanted. And he kind of, I think, has lost it a little bit. I don't know. I don't want to say anything like that, but it was shocking, to put it bluntly.
Yeah. I think, or was it The Brutalist?
Oh,
might have been.
Well, that's not Adam Driver. That's Adrian Brody.
Yes.
I don't think that has an interval, though.
Okay.
It doesn't. No, it doesn't have an interval.
Right. Huh.
There must have been. I mean, I didn't stick with Megalopolis long enough to know whether or not it has an interval.
Well, you gave it one.
Yeah. We went and had lunch.
Oh dear.
I'm getting a note now that it was The Brutalist.
Ah, okay. Okay. Interesting. Oh, I think.
Thank you, Susan. I'm being coached. I'm being coached remotely.
Fantastic. Awesome. Yes, that's all. That's a very, very. Man, like that is a thing, right? When you you listen to things like Rogan, and he's got Jamie in the background, and whenever he needs information, he could just pull it up. You sometimes think, God damn it, I need that.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thanks to have. Always good to have a little support system.
Yes, indeed. I think I might have to bring Susan on full time.
Yes.
Oh man, you had your premiere at Dances with Films.
Yes. Just this past Saturday.
Yes. How was that experience?
Oh, it's great. I mean, it's a great festival. There are different festivals are of different qualities. This is one of the really, really good ones. And it's in a beautiful cinema in the heart of New York City. Huge room that we were in, huge actual theater. It was very full, and it was actually it was the world premiere. I mean, it was the first audience to see it, and it was extremely well received. It looked and sounded great in the room, which is always fun to when the thing that you've been looking at on your monitor in your studio for months and months and months and months, to see it up there. It's 30 feet by 15 feet. It's huge. And it was great. It was terrific. And it was one, the thing, it's not, there's not a lot of gasp moments, and there's not a lot of, explosive laughter moments. It's not that kind of film. But I've noticed that when it's a piece of your own material, you can hear when the audience stops paying attention. And if something is lagging or something isn't landing, there's a kind of, the air goes out of the room a little bit, and that didn't happen. Everybody was right there with it all the way to the end.
Nice. Oh, that's great. I think it is one of those films that grief is a very different thing. And the way I process it will be different to how you process it to how Susan process it. You know what I mean? It's just they're very different. So I think it's one of those things that will have people having conversations afterwards.
Yeah, and I actually got notes to that effect. I mean, people posted on my Facebook page or Instagram or something, how much they liked the film and how they were still talking about it at dinner the next day. And it's because it's, everybody, it's one of those things that everybody experiences at some point in their life. And so it's, it's universal.
And it's just like, maybe you're not going through it, but maybe it reminds you of the experience your friend is going through, and you're just like, oh, okay, yes, boom. And so I think it's one of those type of films that will help start conversations. And
I hope so.
Thinking.
I definitely hope so. I mean, I think that's the idea, is that people will be made to think about this thing, and it's a sharing thing. It's like I said, it's a universal experience.
Yeah. On that note, Paul, how can people see it? Do you have other festivals lined up?
We're waiting to hear back on some of the festivals. I don't have anything lined up in the UK yet. But I'm looking for, festival opportunities here. And, ultimately, eventually, I mean, this is, how films work. You make a film, and maybe it comes out a year later, right? So we're from the time I finished the edit, it was about 4 months ago. So this is very, very early days. I will be exploring actual distribution outside of, commercial distribution. And at that point, with any luck, it will appear either on streamers or, I mean, cinemas are hard because it's very expensive for the distributors to do things in cinemas, but there's always a possibility. But eventually it will be, it will be out there in some form or other. And I will let you know when that happens.
Awesome. Yeah. No, that's good. It is interesting because sometimes I'll watch something at a festival and it'd be like, oh, that was great. And you tell people about it and they're like, oh, it sounds good. How can I see it? I'm like, I don't know yet. And then all of a sudden, it might be 2 years later that you'll throw a Netflix or Prime or something and you'll be like, hold on. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
That film is fine. It's out now. Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I actually got distribution for my first feature. And it's out on platforms, so it can be done. I mean, it's the theatrical distribution, like I said, is difficult because it's just crazy expensive.
Unfortunately, but yeah, okay. I mean, with all of this and how these things work, have any new ideas started to blossom?
Yeah, I have. It's actually, I'm in London currently, partially to talk to one of my oldest friends about some ideas around what the next film is going to be. It's a little, I would say it's very premature for me to try and describe it,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's I do have another idea. I'll put it that way. And
Okay.
there's even been a suggestion vaguely that I might shoot it here.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
If you
Well,
need someone,
I realized yesterday, I had a meeting with someone. I actually have access to a really special location, here just outside of London. And it suddenly went, oh, this idea that I have, that might actually work there. So,
okay.
yeah.
We'll watch this space, I guess.
Yes.
Awesome. I think that's the perfect time for you to drop your socials so people can keep track of.
Yes.
Hey,
Okay. So the
festivals.
main one is on Instagram. It's Paul Schwartz Photo, all one word. PaulSchwartz photo, all one word. And I'm Paul Schwartz on Facebook, and those are my my main ones. Also, if you want to kind of get a more in-depth look at the films, my production company is called Zakatak Productions, and it's ZAKATAK Productions, all one word, .com is the website for the production company.
Tremendous people. All the links will be on the webpage for this episode, so make sure that you go check them out. And yeah, follow, because you want to know when the film might be dropping at a festival near you. And you know, for when Paul's starts talking about this new project. So make sure that you sign up and follow people. You know what I mean?
Yes, please do.
Oh man, Paul, this has been great. I've really enjoyed.
Thank you so much, Kevin.
Oh, no worries at all, man. It's always, and it's always fun talking about like different types of projects, and you know what I mean, just how they came to be and just all of these things. So yeah, no, this was a really interesting one. So
Thank you.
I'm glad that Susan put it all together.
Yes, me too.
Awesome.
Good
Well,
to talk to you.
yeah, man. Enjoy the rest of your day, and yeah, hopefully you know, everything comes together, and you know, you do shoot the next film over here.
Yeah, it'll be something. Be a real homecoming. Although, I mean, you know, I'm used to working here now, so.
Yeah, be intriguing. But when you're ready to talk about new things, please stop by for another conversation.
I would be happy to. Thank you.
Tremendous. All right, man. Thank you for your time.
Take care.
It easy. Bye.
Ciao.